Hi there and welcome to Lens and Language. This is the 7 Colours to Freedom and welcome to Tully Vision, whereby now we've developed the ability to see from outside the red to green programming that is the human condition. And without judging it, without staying in that old story, we're developing the capacity to see from outside the typical timeline. And this is where the timeless can see with that invigorated spirit now that you're bringing in the awareness into your daily routine. The identity is empowered with the ability to see from 0 point and not fall into the old programming that the world tends to repeat, because it's far easier to believe a lie with the subconscious programming than it is to realize that you've been lied to. There's an old saying that a lie is already halfway around the world while the truth is still putting its shoes on. So a lot of people are just putting their sneakers on. Instead of feeling like you've got to catch up, recognize that a lot of the people that you've been mixing with, without judging, can't help but play the cards of red, orange and yellow up to green, because this is the nature of the human condition that we're all a part of. So with great compassion now, it's not coming from the me compassion, because the awareness from within naturally has the right kind of compassion, because it's not coming from my perception, from red, orange and yellow. It's coming from what is already innately awake and can see with clarity. So the first thing, the oneness which comes out of 0 point, is taking out the one thing in our subconscious programming that tends to animate every day. So the awareness permeates into our story. We don't lose connection with our story. We don't lose connection with the lessons that we've learned. We're developing the capacity to have the courage to see them in new light. So there's less repeating obviously yesterday and more of a beautiful internal victory that can bring new flow and context into the challenges that obviously repeat in our lives. But now that awareness is coming before the typical trauma that controls 70% of our subconscious programming, that pulls us into old beliefs that take us away from our full potential. So we're no longer playing into the third dimensional, typical physical reality. Now we're recognizing that there is a fourth dimension that has the space to see the nature of our third dimensional reality. And the fourth dimension now is building that foundation from green to violet, from the fourth to the seventh, new action. You're no longer repeating the stories of yesterday. There's an integrity of seeing and a truthful speech that washes away that unconscious survival-based programming that destroys communication. And so from 7, we go into the transcendence of the spirit that has transcended the story of time, yet we're bringing that into time in the lower. So this is taking us out of the eternal loop. So now the primary you has a language for speaking to secondary issues in no time. And when this is practiced daily, you develop the art of being in and not of the world, with a total commitment to that truth that rises from 0 point and ends in the family story, because at the end of our life, we bring that 0 point into the nature of what our life was all about, only to repeat the oneness that comes back into the same cycle below that has lived a fulfilled life. So awareness naturally sees into the ego personality. The seeing can see the nature of a story. True identity can see where the false identity can obviously be caught up, as the non-physical sees the way the physical self cannot help but feel insecure in a world whereby it is acting and reacting in the lower. And so with discernment we can understand how the person simply can't help itself in the lower frame. And so without judgment, the only suffering that comes from love is thinking that you can change anyone. And of course, one can only change themselves. So the reason why people don't do what it is that I'm speaking about is because we're in love with the lower frame of getting what we want, which is the me ego that is not really enduring the illusion. They are in the illusion. Yet seeing from the above, we see in context we're moving forward spiritually, developing that muscle that can not play into the gorilla as an analogy for the ego pulls us into distraction, where we're trying to change things for our own gain. Yet what it's doing is it's destroying our connection to that truth, love, and freedom. Remember to fill the quiz out at the end of each module. For example, this question: how does 0 point relate to discernment? A, B, or C? The answer to this is, for me, a combination of both. It is C. A discernment for me arises from my personal experiences and also 0 point. So it's not about rising up and thinking you're aware. It's about learning from the character of your lessons in the past, but not allowing that character to influence the awareness that you are. So you can see there's a balance between what you can see in the spirit and the lessons we've learnt from the past that also relate to the subconscious and the way sometimes it needs to protect us. So if you were to give 3 examples of how discernment provides clarity in your life, write those down now in a way that represents that you have committed to seeing the nature of something in no time, from green to violet. Because the ego plays a game of smoke and mirrors. The smoke is there to hide the agenda, because the me is getting something out of it. And the mirrors are all about keeping you out of the unity consciousness, because the two opposites keep you out of the one alignment that can see clearly into your own lack of responsibility in areas that are difficult to look at, because the fear of having to deal with it drives them forward, where the entity itself is feeding on unresolved trauma. So the Hawkins map of consciousness shows us that without judgment, we can see into the illusion below because it's already whole. And we've dealt with the duality consciousness that comes from the ego perspective, which is no longer hijacking the power above to clean that old subconscious programming. You are connecting with who you are first over the likes and dislikes below that are always changing and can never stabilize. So this provides us a consistent flow that is always here. And when these two fields become one, we discover a new heaven on earth. When we take the time to go within, yet use the healthy boundaries of what we've learnt from the past, so these two fields can integrate as one living field. You won't find a lot of people wanting to jump into this because the me is in the magic of the world, and it creates its own smoke and mirrors, which is like an insecure entity that becomes normalized within society. And technology is reflecting back to us what we already are. And the mirror we create is someone moving forward on a continual goal-setting tour, but never really arriving at the truth, love, and freedom they already are. So your job is to, before sleep and every morning, to discipline yourself through the aware prayer. Without commitment daily, the ego falls into the same complacency, just entertaining the old pattern because you simply don't develop the spiritual muscle that overrides your own insecurities. You must develop now the warrior mindset, alert from the spirit. You are here to overcome the old insecure self and be the light of the world. So write down 3 beliefs that will stop you from backsliding into the old self. Every day that you don't love the spirit with all your heart, mind and soul, you're actually riding 2 horses. And when we look at biblical wisdom that says that man should never ride 2 horses, laws are written based on that book. Yet riding 2 horses is the conditioned identity trying to be spiritual in the above, with one foot in the world of its insecure nature and the other one pursuing the spiritual integrity, which doesn't work, as you can only ride 1 horse. To be in integrity, to come alive in the spirit every morning and allow it to flow into the matters of your daily life. So Module 6 and 7 will be collaborating with the smartest minds I can find on how we can do this within the digital space, within this community, empowering a real foundation in friendship and shape the kind of humanity that we can feel excited to be a part of. See you in Module 6.